Hey everyone, and welcome back. We're going deep on a rugby decision that's got everyone talking.
Yeah, a lot of chatter about this one.
France declining the All Blacks' request for a test match in the United States in 2025.
A test match in the U.S. would have been huge.
Huge.
Yeah,
Especially with the 2031 Rugby World Cup coming to America.
right. You'd think they'd want to capitalize on that momentum.
Exactly. So, to set the scene, the All Blacks wanted to play one of their three 2025 test matches against France on U.S. soil.
Two powerhouse teams.
Oh yeah. Would have been a massive event for rugby fans here in the States and a great way to grow the sport.
Definitely. And the All Blacks, they've already shown they're serious about expanding into the U.S. market.
Right, they played Fiji and San Diego just last year,
2023.
2023. And that epic clash against Ireland in Chicago back in 2016,
Ah, yes, Chicago.
that was something else. They're even set for a rematch with Ireland in Chicago next November.
So, yeah, you can see why this French decision has got people scratching their heads.
So let's get down to it. Why did France say no?
Well, officially, the French Rugby Federation, the FFR, they cited concerns about player welfare.
Go-
That's what they're saying anyway.
Right.
Their medical committee highlighted the challenges of a double time difference to manage and a double change of season.
I see. So jet lag.
Jet lag, big time. And adjusting to different climates, too. Not to be underestimated.
Makes sense. These are elite athletes we're talking about.
Top of their game. Got to keep them in top shape.
You can't argue with that. FFR President Florian Grill, he was very clear about their stance.
Oh, yeah. What did he say?
He said, quote, "We considered that it could cause injuries, and our priority is the health of the players." End quote.
Can't fault them for that. Player safety should always come first.
Of course. But is there more to this than meets the eye? I mean, the All Blacks have managed to play in the U.S. before without major issues.
Well, you've got to consider France's 2025 tour was already going to be incredibly demanding.
Right.
Even without this U.S. trip tacked on their top 14 final, it's scheduled for June 28th.
And that's just days before the proposed test window.
Yeah, right up against it.
So the players would be coming off a physically and emotionally draining season.
Exactly. The top 14, it's not just any other game. This is the culmination of their entire season.
Right. The top clubs in France battling it out for the championship.
So yeah, even if jet lag wasn't a factor, they'd be pretty wiped.
And facing the All Blacks when you're not at 100%.
Let's just say, not ideal.
Makes you wonder if France would even have been able to field their strongest team.
It's a good question. Some key players might have been out due to injuries from the top 14 or needing rest and recovery.
And going up against the All Blacks without your A team.
Risky move for sure.
So it sounds like maybe France saw this U.S. match as more of a risk than a reward.
At least competitively speaking.
Right. It's not just about the travel. It's about managing their players and making sure they can be competitive in all their international fixtures.
Precisely. Now, to be fair to France, they haven't completely ruled out playing in the U.S.
Oh, they left the door open.
A little bit grilled. Grill did say that they can imagine that it could be interesting, but that they'd prefer to find other opportunities to go to the United States without the logistical and health challenges.
Other opportunities. Interesting. What could that mean?
Maybe a U.S. tour on their own terms later on down the line.
I see a standalone tour.
Could be.
Yeah.
And I think this is where we start to see the wider implications of this decision. It hints at a potential shift in how top rugby nations are thinking about international matches.
Yep.
They're weighing global expansion against the demands on their players.
So this isn't just about a single canceled match. It could be a sign of a bigger trend in rugby.
Yeah, a growing awareness of the need to prioritize player well-being, even for these big-ticket events.
Right. Player health at the forefront.
Absolutely. And that raises some interesting questions about the future of international rugby.
Big questions.
How do you balance expanding the sport globally with protecting your most valuable asset, the players themselves?
It's a tough one. No easy answers.
Definitely not. But one thing's for sure, this whole situation, it's gotten people talking.
Oh, yeah. Lots to discuss.
And it'll be fascinating to see how it all plays out in the coming years.
Absolutely. It's a reminder that even in a sport as seemingly straightforward as rugby, there's always more to the story than meets the eye.
Always more going on beneath the surface.
So we were talking about other opportunities for France to play in the U.S.
Right.
What could those look like?
Well, one option could be a standalone tour,
Okay.
like what the All Blacks have done in the past.
Makes sense.
France could schedule a dedicated trip to the U.S.
At a time that works for them.
Exactly. Gives them more control over the logistics, Less travel burden on the players.
And they could play multiple matches against different American teams.
Yeah, exactly.
Which would be huge for developing rugby here in the States.
Absolutely. It's not just about showcasing the top-level talent.
Right.
It's about fostering growth at the grassroots level, too.
Give American players a chance to test themselves.
Against the best in the world.
Exactly. A standalone tour could be valuable for both sides.
French and American players alike.
Raises the overall level of the sport. Now, Grill didn't specifically mention a standalone tour, but he did say they were open to exploring different options.
Okay.
What about something like a multi-team tournament?
Ooh, now that's an interesting idea.
Right.
A mini Rugby World Cup hosted in the U.S.
Featuring several top-tier nations.
Could be a massive draw for fans.
Oh, yeah. Imagine the excitement.
Multiple matches, different playing styles.
International rivalries. It would create a real buzz around rugby here.
And you could structure it in a way that addresses those player welfare concerns.
Right.
You could have teams based in specific regions, minimizing travel building and rest periods between matches.
It would be a feast of rugby spread out over a few weeks.
Gives players time to recover and perform at their best.
Logistically, it makes sense, too.
Yeah, having multiple teams in one location
Streamlines travel arrangements.
potentially reduces costs.
Plus, you'd have fans from different countries coming together.
A real cultural event, not just a sporting competition.
Okay, so let's dream big for a second.
Okay, I like it.
What U.S. cities would be ideal hosts for these international rugby events?
Well, you can't go wrong with the classics.
Yeah.
Chicago, Los Angeles, New York.
Solid choices.
They've got the infrastructure, the passionate sports fans, and the experience hosting major events.
Can't argue with that. I'm also curious about some of the up-and-coming rugby hubs.
Oh, yeah.
Places like Seattle, Austin, even Denver.
They've shown a real appetite for the sport.
I think expanding into those less traditional markets.
It could really broaden rugby's appeal.
Tap into new fan bases.
It's all about finding that sweet spot, isn't it?
Catering to the established rugby strongholds, while also nurturing growth in new and exciting places.
And I think that's the key takeaway from this whole situation with France and the All Blacks.
Yeah.
It highlights the need for a balanced approach to expanding rugby globally.
Thinking about the ambitions of the sport.
But also the well-beings of the players.
Right, we can't just focus on the spectacle.
We need to make sure the players are supported and protected.
They're the foundation of the sport.
Exactly. And that's the real challenge.
Finding creative solutions that allow rugby to grow.
But without compromising its integrity.
So as we continue to explore the possibilities for rugby in the U.S.,
Right.
it's important to keep these considerations in mind.
Growth and sustainability.
Exactly. We want to see the sport flourish,
Of course.
but we also want to see it done in a way that benefits everyone involved. It really makes you think, what kind of future does rugby want? Not just in the U.S., but globally.
That's the big question, isn't it?
A question with a lot of moving parts.
It really does.
Yeah.
And it needs careful consideration from everyone. Players, coaches, administrators, fans.
Even those new to the sport.
Exactly. Everyone's got a stake in this.
Because at the end of the day, it's a team effort, right?
It is. We all have a role to play in shaping the future of rugby.
And this whole situation with France and the All Blacks,
Yeah.
it's a good reminder that progress shouldn't come at the expense of the players.
The players are the heart of the game.
Their health, their well-being, their ability to perform at their best.
All those things need to be top of mind.
When we're making decisions about expansion,
We need to find that balance where global growth and player welfare can both thrive.
not always easy.
No, definitely not. A complex puzzle, but one worth solving.
It's about making rugby a truly global sport,
But
while still protecting what makes it special.
exactly. You said it perfectly. It's about finding innovative solutions, thinking outside the box.
Challenging some assumptions about how the game is played and structured.
Maybe we need to rethink the international calendar,
Create more regional tournaments
explore different formats
that reduce travel demands.
without sacrificing the quality of competition.
Right, it's a conversation that needs to happen at every level.
From the grassroots to the governing bodies,
Because the future of rugby depends on it.
on our ability to adapt and innovate.
And put the players first.
It's about finding that balance between tradition and progress, making sure rugby keeps captivating audiences for generations to come.
Well said. So as we wrap up our deep dive today, I'll leave you with this.
Okay, shoot.
Grill mentioned finding other opportunities for France to play in the U.S. What might those look like?
Possibilities.
Could we see a multi-team tournament on American soil? Which cities would you want to see a clash of the Titans?
Good questions. Lots to ponder.
Keep those questions in mind as you explore the world of rugby. So much to discover, so much passion.
And so many stories yet to be written.
That's it for our deep dive today. Thanks for joining us.
Always a pleasure.